Hey everybody,
What's up, guys? This is take number 2.
take number two to the IronTrap podcast. So we were about 5 or 10 minutes in, and Mike Raz didn't hit record on the audio portion. So our video we filmed, but not our audio. So, anyways, this is one of our more visual oriented podcasts. So if you guys are listening to this on Spotify or Apple Music or however you listen, if you get time, go over and check it out on YouTube. We're going to be reviewing or reflecting on one of our big picks, and we always drop some stuff from those videos into it, and that's it's really fun to
Yeah,
kind of think back on some of these. So we're doing one of these today. So stick around if you want to listen to that. So for stuff going on, t-shirt, the parts robot
yep.
t-shirts.
They're all out. They should be all delivered. We're waiting on a few international shipments to be delivered, and then the remaining will go up on the website probably next Sunday.
Okay.
So a week from, it's like the 21st or something like that, they'll go up on the website.
Okay, cool. So yeah, if you guys are interested, we only have a limited supply, so we will not be printing any new ones at least for a little while. And we're working on stickers, so we will have stickers that we kind of give away at events. We do put them on the site for like a sticker pack, but mainly just for giveaways.
Yeah,
But for people that asked, we kind of let that slip through the cracks and didn't get them out. But we will be getting stickers,
definitely.
which will be good. So Iron Trap happenings, news, otherwise.
Lots of events coming up.
Yeah, we have a lot of events coming up. This is kind of like in this part of the country, I think is like, my opinion, the best time of the year. The
Yes.
flowers are blooming, the weather is nice. It's like almost perfect weather for driving. The only downside is it is rainy sometimes, so we never know if we get like a week or
This
2 weeks of
this
rain.
week's been absolutely crazy. It's like nice and sunny, and then you turn around and look back outside, and it's a monsoon.
Yeah.
Then you turn back around again, and it's sunny again. It's like these. I feel like we're in Florida some days.
Yeah, so I've gotten rained on multiple times in the 32 Roadster driving it. I think it was a week or so ago, I was helping my buddy Nick move some couches. He was moving, so looked at the forecast. I'm like, no rain, great. So perfect weather. So I drove about an hour out to him, and it was great. And we moved, and then we were like, let's have dinner. And we had dinner, and I didn't get to go home till like 9 or 9:30 at night. As soon as I get to put the key in the ignition, it starts raining, and then I drive an hour home in the rain with no top, which was pretty awesome. So I've been getting a little bit of, and I was driving the stroll car last weekend. I went to visit Justin, our buddy Justin, at his repair garage. Again, no chance of rain, or wasn't any chance of rain till like 9 at night. 5 o'clock, it starts getting super dark, and I'm driving home, and then all of a sudden it's raining, and I'm like, awesome, again, driving
At
in the
least you
rain.
weren't getting wet in that one.
Yeah. Yeah, that one wasn't too bad.
Just
So,
sketchy to drive in the rain.
yeah. So, anyways, we have, I think we might have mentioned it in another podcast, but our friend Nick that helped design did design a bunch of our flathead design and some of our
The parts robot.
parts robot. He's from Australia. His fiance and himself are coming over, and Kate and myself and the two of them were going to Brimfield for the spring antique show. If you guys haven't heard about it or been to it, it is kind of like Hershey, but for antiques and vintage. So it's just like massive 1 week event. All these different, it's like a whole town they take over, and like every person's property on the main street is pretty much like a giant flea market. And at the different days of the week or different flea markets, you could stay there a whole week if you want. We're gonna kind of do like 2 days of just shopping, which will be fun.
Does it start like Monday?
Yeah, it's like Monday. And
Oh,
actually, I
okay.
was looking last night. I think in a neighboring town, they're starting on Saturday or Friday, and they're doing like a vintage clothes market. So they kind of like piggybacked, and then it's one town over, or a couple towns over.
Just
So,
slowly just walk up the street throughout the week.
well, this one, yeah, that's what you do during the week. Is every different fields open different days. So some of the fields are only Friday and Saturday. Some of them are only Monday and Tuesday. So it's kind of neat because certain vendors only vend in certain fields. Some of the vendors bounce around. All right, Moon. See you later. He's going. Maybe.
He's gonna go lay
Oh
on
no.
that rug.
Uh-oh. We might need to check the couch because I have glass on that. Hold on. We don't need. If you want to lay on the couch, just move the glass.
Moon would just lay right on top of it.
You'll just lay on my brand new glass. Hold on. Do not. Hold on. Hold on, please.
If you can't hear in the background, Matt's going, hold on, please. Hold on, wait. No chill whatsoever. But while Nick and Nadia are here, we're going to try and do a podcast with Nick. He's done a bunch of crazy graphic design for all kinds of people. Is he following you now?
Yeah, Moondog. Paint him up. Anyways, now we're safe if he decides to.
But while Nick's here, we're going to try and sit down and talk with him, do a podcast, talk about all the crazy stuff he's designed over the years and all the clients he's had and
Yeah,
crazy stuff.
he doesn't know he's doing the podcast yet. Like a lot of times we do this, I'm gonna twist his arm when he's here.
Hey, you got an extra hour. You're not doing anything. Come sit down and talk.
Yeah, so we're gonna hopefully talk with him and different stuff. He's had an interesting life himself, with just his design. He's lived multiple places in the world, and just a really neat guy. And again, kind of crazy how the internet works. He just hit us up and offered to do a design because he dug what we were doing. And
we're very low on the totem pole of his clients.
Yeah,
like
so he
the bottom.
yeah. So he but he hit us up and dug what we're doing and offered to do a design and then eventually, what are we doing? Come on, man.
This is the most unhinged podcast.
Come on, Moon. What are we doing? Go lay down.
I know there's bones in here somewhere.
God. So, welcome to my life with the Moon Dog. Yeah, so it became friends on the internet. He did some design work for us, and then Kate and I went over for the Australian Street Rod Nationals a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago, and we stopped in to see his then girlfriend and himself, and we stayed with them, and we actually had a really great time. We kind of wish we would have stayed with them longer because they were just good people and we into the same stuff. So then they came and stayed with us for a couple of days, like the next summer.
Yeah.
And then
it was the same summer the Swedes were here, right?
Yeah, they came right after the Swedes.
Yeah.
Actually, that was a crazy summer. And then now they're coming back, so it's gonna be fun to hang with them. Do Brimfield, and they're staying a little bit longer. So last time they only came and stayed with us for like 2 days or something. Now it's like a whole week. So we're gonna get them to show more stuff. They're really into the same stuff: flea markets, vintage, hunting for treasures, old buildings, all that stuff. So it's really exciting. I've gotten really into past handful of years, like having friends visit from other countries and places. It's like we actually live, like it's pretty cool here where we live. I took it for granted most of my life, and now like it's really exciting to be like, I'm gonna take you here, and there's this neat old building, and there's this cool flea market down the road, and all this stuff, and doing that. So it's kind of fun. Kate and I are excited to take them and do that kind of stuff. And
you have plenty of time to do it this time.
Yeah, we're still going to fit a lot into a short period of time. So that's going on. The one thing I wanted to mention, we talked about going to Indy for having the Mercury there. I don't think it's going to make it. A bunch of factors. I've put every minute that I can into the car, but with spring happening, I haven't gotten to put like every day dedicated on it. I'm currently doing the body filler and paint work on the roof, but all the time, like now, I haven't gotten to sand yet today because I was machining a part. We're doing a podcast, all this stuff going on. So that's going on. The car's going away probably next week to get the seats, door cards, and carpet done. So it's going to be gone for a week or two, getting that stuff done. And then
Indy happens.
Indy happens. So it's really, the glass isn't in it. I don't really want to show the car with like half sanded body fill or no windows in it. It's just not interested in doing that. So it sucks, but I think I'm going to skip it. We also have a really, really big announcement of something that's going on with us like next week.
Yeah,
and
watch next Sunday's video. Yeah, it's going to be cool.
It's going to be cool. So we have that stuff going on. So like that has been a huge distraction for months, and now going forward it's going to be a huge distraction for years or forever.
Yeah.
So that stuff going on, it's been crazy. So it's not realistic. I'm going to try and push to get the car. Gasket Goons does a spring show, which is the end of June.
It used to be a spring show, and then they moved to the end of June.
Yeah, it's really like a early summer show locally at the McCungy Park. It's a really good. The guys that put that show on do a great job. This is the second year. I'm hoping to have the car far enough along at that point that I can take it there, and the roof and maybe all the bare metal stuff is bodyworked in paint, and we at least have a windshield in. That's my goal. I'm going to work towards that goal. So that would be really cool, but really in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it's not realistic to have the car with everything.
And also before that show, we go to Minnesota for a week.
Oh crap! So even that's going to be a stretch because we're going to have a lot of distractions.
Sorry to remind you about that.
Yeah, so we have a lot going on. So anyways, that's some of the stuff. But I didn't want to have anybody disappointed if they were coming to the show to, one of the reasons they were coming to the show is to see us in the Mercury. I don't think it's going to make it, unfortunately. But the goal would be next year it's going to be all driving, everything's good. And then next year, maybe I can just drive it there instead of trailering it half done. That would be the hope. So, but I want to get this thing together and drive it this summer. And our normal shows towards the end of the summer, I don't think it'll be the problem with Wheels of Time and Gasket Goons and all that stuff that's local. Who knows? I don't know I want to hit the Relics Riot this year as long as the weather doesn't look crappy. So whether we bring the DeLorean Roadster or the Mercury or something, hopefully we'll have something out at that. So we're still planning to hit a lot of events. It's just the spring is always a shit show.
Yeah, major shit show.
So today's topic.
We're going to talk about, I unfortunately could not make this trip, but Matt and Kate went to Seattle.
You went on the second.
I went on the second part when we picked up the remainder of it.
Yes.
That's right.
So it's...
I saw a little snippet of it, but
yeah.
Matt unfortunately had to do the 90% of the hard work by himself for the most part.
Yeah. So...
This is 2022, I think?
2022 or 2021?
22.
Okay. So this is the Seattle speed equipment stash type deal.
There's a lot of everything.
A lot of everything, but a lot of speed equipment type stuff. This one was this this is one of the first one. No, I shouldn't say one of the first ones. No, because I did Dan in 2020.
Yeah.
I went to his place, and that was the one where I first started going like all the way across the country and buying stuff. So, but we did this one.
This is probably the most we've bought like on the other side of the country ever. I mean, there was a lot of stuff.
No, Dan's I bought a ton.
How many pallets did you ship back?
Quite a few. 5, 6.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's true.
It was a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
It was a similar amount, but Dan's stuff was more rough. Wasn't as much quality.
Yeah.
So this was, I have to think of his name. Will, yeah, okay. So this one was, Will reached out to us.
Didn't a viewer, someone on the ham that knew him, reach out?
I don't think so. I think he watched our stuff.
Oh, okay.
And hit us up. But basically, Will, from memory, sent us a email, or maybe he sent me a message on the ham.
I think he sent you a message on the ham.
And said basically he had a collection of speed equipment and parts and whatever else. He had tried fishing it, like all his stuff, out to a couple guys he knew in the Pacific Northwest, saw that we were buying, and he hit me up and kind of was like, I don't know if you'd come this far, but I have a lot of the stuff that I see you guys are into. So, of course, typical deal. We do a phone call. We talk a bunch. He starts listing off all the stuff, and it's like, this is one of these ones where in the phone call, when I get the list and I'm writing in my notebook, there's like a couple key items that he says, and I'm like, I'll buy this whole estate for like...
You can just stop. I'll just take it. You don't have to keep going.
Well, no, he didn't give me a price, so I didn't say that. But I knew that I would like to purchase it just for myself to get a couple key items. So in this particular one, he was listing off. So basically, in Will's situation, he was really heavy on the early days of the ham and eBay buying. I mean, in the early days of the ham and eBay, you could buy some fantastic stuff for good deals. Mm-hmm. So Will was around in that time buying heavily, and he scored some great stuff for good deals. And a lot of the stuff he just bought, knew it was a good deal, put it away for a someday project. He kind of described to me that he had maybe like 3 different types of cars he wanted to build in his head. So he wanted to build like a cookie tea kind of tribute car. He wanted to build like a early style traditional roadster, hot rod, Model A roadster or whatever, flathead powered, all that kind of pre-war era style car. And then he had like a Chevy, I guess you could say street rod type project,
It was
30s car.
37, 38, if I
Yeah,
remember
something
correctly.
like that. That he was building also at the same time. So he was buying parts for all these different types of cars. Didn't even have the bodies for two of them. You know, he only had the Chevy, and he just spent years and years doing that. And then he got later in life, and his wife was kind of he had some health, stuff. Nothing, it wasn't like he was dying, but he kind of like came. His wife and him came to the realization he wasn't going to put all these cars
Yeah.
together. So he hit me up, started listing the stuff. And kind of the number one thing in this collection that he explained to me that raised my eyebrows was he had a Rotaphase distributor NOS for a Cadillac. So for me, that's as far as Cadillac speed parts go, that's one of the top things on the food chain as far as rarity goes. So he had an NOS one. He explained to me that he had in the early days of the ham, the speed shop Rocco and Cheaters, which has become in the spotlight again because Finnegan and Freiberger just
Yeah.
did a road trip there. We've been buying stuff from them recently ourselves. The son's been selling stuff. It was on American Pickers for like 20 years or 15 years. He's been selling out of that place after with his father aging, before his father passed away. And after his father passed, he's been selling.
That
So
place had to look insane. Like,
first, yeah, in the early days, it was
good
probably
Lord.
crazy. So, from what I understand, when his father was still alive, they found the ham and they started selling on the ham. And I think Will had sent the son a DM on the ham and said, "Hey, here's my wish list. Do you have any of this stuff?" And one of those things was a Rotaphase for a Cadillac because the Cookie T has one.
yep.
And it just so happened they had one, and he bought it, and it was a really good deal. He got it, and he had it all these years. And what's kind of interesting, I guess I'm jumping around here. When I was buying a bunch of stuff from the son recently, talking to him on the phone, I said, "Hey, I have a distributor that came out of your shop," and I started talking to him, and he told me the story that it was very odd that they had it. He said a local racer guy or hot rodder special ordered that distributor through his father,
Okay.
and it was like custom built from Rotophase, shipped to him, and the guy never picked it up.
That's wild.
And it sat on the shelf from like the 60s or whatever all the way until Will bought it.
Early 2000s,
Yeah,
probably.
so they're in Georgia
Yeah.
or Alabama. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Alabama. Will bought it from them, and they shipped it to Washington. Will sat on it for 20 years or something.
Yeah.
I bought it, brought it all the way
Way
back
back.
here. It's in my case sitting over there.
Rotaphase, they were based out of California, too, right?
Yeah, it was Kong Jackson.
Oh, okay.
So the Kong distributor, the early ones, that was one of his.
So it sent from California to Alabama to the Pacific Northwest back to PA.
Back to PA, it's sitting here. And
That thing's seen more of the country than like a lot of people.
Yeah. So he told me that's a holy grail item. I was like, man, I'm in. So he kind of started. It was really cool because Will had great taste. So like
Yeah.
everything he was buying,
Really good memory, too.
yeah, his memory was crazy. It was like, oh yeah, I bought this from this guy. I bought that. I have this, and he was listing off all his stuff, and he kept good records. So we started talking dollars and cents, and he knew the deal that I had to come cross country and ship it back. So it ended up pretty much I made the deal, but I couldn't go right away. And I think, how did that all work?
So we already had
deal.
our trip scheduled to go to see Dan because I bought a Ham's beer collection out there.
That's right. Yeah.
So we already had that scheduled, and we didn't have time in our schedule to buy that and get it all sent, and we didn't know how we were going to get it home.
Right, because there was a lot of heavy stuff. He had 32 frame rails, Cadillac engine, small block engine, flathead engine, 50 transmissions of LaSalle, early Ford,
Probably 50 adapters.
50 adapters. There was a lot of heavy stuff, so it wasn't like some of these ones where we can just throw it all on a pallet and ship it. It was so much logistically and weight-wise that it
Yeah.
wasn't just going to go that way.
So before Matt even went and bought it, we happened to be going out to Seattle, already on a trip to buy some parts in Seattle, and we went down to Oregon. So literally getting off the plane in Seattle, Matt had already been looking for
Yep.
a way to get the stuff back. So that's how we ended up with Big Red.
Oh yeah, so yeah, ahead of us flying out there, I already knew that I had sold the meat truck, and I was kind of like, we need another cool old Ford truck that is bigger that we can do more with. We can put parts in the back, maybe haul a car. I didn't know what I wanted, but I wanted something neat. Came across this truck on Facebook Marketplace, called the guy. I spoke with him on the phone. He measured the truck, and he was like, basically, we confirmed that you could fit an early Ford, a Model T, to all the way to like maybe 34, but definitely 32.
I think we
Ford
actually used the Skelly 34 as like
measuring
as the max. Where like we could put it in the truck with the tailgate down. It'll fit.
Yes. So I agreed to buy it. He gave me a bunch of photos. It was pretty affordable. I sent him a deposit.
No, you didn't send a deposit.
Oh, I said I'll be out in like a week to look at it. So we flew out there. We
literally got the U-Haul and then drove. It actually was up towards Matt
yeah, it was
Field.
pretty far. It was pretty far north.
Like an hour north of Seattle?
It was north of him. It was
really?
Matt's like, I think, an hour north of Seattle or so. And then it was another hour plus north of
Oh, really?
him.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it's north of him another hour.
Holy cow.
Because he's then about, I think, an hour to the Canadian border.
Holy cow.
He's pretty far up there. So we drove up there, looked at it, moved it around on the property. It's exactly what I wanted. I paid him a down payment on it and said I'll be back in like a month or a couple months to fill it with parts. And I told him the crazy idea that I wanted to fill it with parts and then ship it back. So I knew that Will had the parts. I knew he was close enough to Seattle that I could rent a box truck and drive all the parts to this guy's place. He was buying and selling big trucks and had a machine, so I knew we could move the stuff out of a box truck into the back of Big Red. Whole crazy scheme.
And conveniently enough, he was also coming all the way to our area.
Not originally. Originally, I was going to have it shipped, and he was like, maybe. And then it did end up working out. So he was, in the end, he was coming. There was something he wanted to look at in Canada above the East Coast, above Buffalo. And basically, if I paid for his fuel, which was quite expensive round trip, he would go and look at this truck he was chasing, deliver my stuff, and drive around. So you need to buy. The lesson is you need to buy something from somebody that's just as crazy as you to help you logistically make it happen.
That dude was definitely crazy about big trucks.
So we worked all that out. Then we went to Dan's. We went to the swap meet.
Yeah.
We stayed with Matt.
That one we didn't do with Matt. That was the next year.
Oh, okay.
This is the one that Kenny went with us. We went and bought Kenny a C10.
Oh, yeah. Our buddy Kenny went on the trip. And it was like one of the only trips he went on with us. But he decided to buy a C10 out in Washington, found it on Facebook Marketplace or whatever. We went and looked at it. He bought it. And then we put some stuff in it and shipped it from Dan's back to him. He still has that truck and runs.
Yeah, on that trip, we went to that house in Seattle that the guy turned into like an early Ford parts store. That his dad had all that.
Yeah, that was the second time I ever went there. Yep. Yeah, so that was a fun trip. But basically, we secured Big Red and did a bunch of stuff. So the second trip,
it was like a month later, basically. I think.
Yeah, it wasn't real long. I don't remember, but Kate and I decided. So this will all tie into our next visual podcast. So
just stick with us here. It's all going to tie together.
I know, this is all crazy. Now I'm talking through it. The way I link everything together, I've always done it this way. You want to be as efficient as possible when you're doing crazy shit. So Kate decided to go on this trip. I kind of sold her on the idea. She's getting... she doesn't fall for it as often anymore.
That's because she's getting smarter. She knows.
She doesn't listen to the podcast, so I can say this. So pretty much, I think car people do this a lot with their significant others. I'm like, she's never been to the Pacific Northwest. She's like, I really want to go. I want to see that part of the country. She had a cousin that lived pretty far north in Washington, and so I basically sold her on, hey, I got to buy this stuff for like a day or so. We got to go pick up all these parts, drop them off at this guy, and then we could spend the rest of the trip visiting your cousin. We're going to go visit Matt, and we're going to do all this different stuff. And I somehow sold her on this.
It'd only be like 2 or 3 hours loading all this up.
Yeah, well, no, I didn't say that. But I explained it would be a day or so of doing the the deal, and then the following day we were gonna go and visit her
It
cousin.
it was a day.
Yeah, so she agreed to all that. And then the other part of it was she has a college friend, a really good college friend that lives in Colorado, and we were going to stop on our way home in Colorado, and we were going to do a layover, and I was going to go look at some stuff there and visit her friend for a day or two, but look at this parts I wanted to buy. So it all worked out really, really well on paper.
Logistically, yes.
It did. So Kate and I, so we flew out there. The plan, we were going to rent a small box truck. This is Kate's first time doing this type of madness with me. She's gone to swap meets. She's flown, we did Disney the one time, and I bought some stuff and we brought it on the plane. She's done a lot of the craziness, but she hasn't done the whole
Fill a box truck in a day?
yeah, box truck type thing. I warned her. I told her, I was like, well, I got a guy that's going to help us that we know out there. So he's going to give me a hand. So you don't really have to do a lot. So we flew into Seattle, got a small, like 16-footer, I think, box truck, drove to Will, who lives like on the other side of the city, or the north, I think it was the north side of the city, actually. And we get there, and it's like not in the city, but it's like in town,
Yeah.
city. Like, it's not like townhomes, but it's a house, but everything's tight together. He's on a busy street with a steep driveway.
I think the driveway you can only fit maybe one. Is it a 2-car driveway? It's small.
The box truck, you could barely fit the box truck into the driveway. So we backed in, and I didn't really know what to expect. So he kind of explained to me that he had a storage unit, but most of the stuff was at his house. So we get there, and it's like a 1.5 or one oversized 1-car garage.
Yeah.
Very unassuming. I'm like, man, with all the stuff he told me, how is it all in the garage? And he opened the garage, super nice guy. He opens the garage, and it's like disaster.
And there's a chassis with an engine in there, too.
The Chevy's in there,
Yeah.
basically. So he has that Chevy chassis with a small block Chevy in it. But it's one of those garages where, like, he put heavy stuff all the way in the front of the garage, and then he started building this chassis. And there's, like, engines, like transmissions in and around, nested in and under this chassis. So, like, his engine hoist is, like, in front of the rear wheel of the chassis. So, like, everything was just not very organized. We had to, like, take half the garage apart just to get the engine hoist out and start pulling stuff. He had good stuff in the house, so as we're pulling stuff out, he's going in his bedroom and pulling things out of the closet. And I forget the guy's name. Rich, jeez. Rich was helping, but to be honest, Rich is retired military. I think his back's not real great.
Yeah.
He didn't really explain all this to me, so he wasn't nearly as helpful as I was expecting. Not his fault. He had limitations, and I didn't ask ahead of time. And I probably didn't tell him fully what was needed. So he helped, but he could only help a little bit. Kate could help some, but she was, obviously not lifting engines and stuff. He's also like on a hill, so with the engine hoist, trying to lift an engine and roll it into the box truck, the engine hoist was wanting to take off down the hill.
Kate also got sick on the way out there, too. Wasn't she, like, under the weather?
As we got there, she ended up getting COVID. So as we were there and we were loading all day, she was, like, starting to feel a little under the weather. So she was helping in the beginning, but then she was kind of just feeling run down. So we're loading, and it's like, man, that was probably the most work I've done by myself in one day, because there was a lot of heavy stuff. Tons and tons of transmissions. So just transmissions and transmissions loading in and heavy. A lot of heavy stuff. So we got, I don't even remember it all, but like there was just so much. I don't even remember. It was a blur of me just loading. I just had to like shut my brain off and do the work. So
And
I
also,
loaded.
Pacific Northwest in June, it still gets pretty warm up there.
It was pretty hot. Yeah. So it was hot. It was a lot of work. I was digging all the stuff out. And we had to clear his garage first. So the truck was probably half full or 3/4 of the way full. And, we had gotten a lot of stuff, but I was like, as we were getting through it all, I'm like, well, you said you had like a stroker Merc crank and all this other stuff. He goes, oh, that's all at the storage unit. I was like, I thought you only had a little bit at the storage unit. He's like, yeah, there's only a little bit. And it's typical situation. He didn't fully remember everything he had. So he's like, okay, we get all this done. Kate's feeling a little under the weather. He's like, we got to go to the storage unit. So we go to the storage unit, and it's one of those normal, you have to type your PIN code in to get into the storage unit, blah, blah, blah. We get there, and he, I don't remember if he didn't have the key.
Did it happen both times?
I think both times they had problems, but the first time was a huge problem. It took him over an hour to get into his storage unit because he hadn't been there in so long. I don't know if they changed the key or he lost the key, or I don't even remember what it was, but it was like, he was up at the office forever, and it was like a whole pain in the butt. And Kate's feeling worse and worse and worse. We finally get the door open, and it is packed. And I think what ended up happening was, and if you haven't been to the Pacific Northwest in recent years, and I apologize if you live there, it's become a shit show.
Yeah.
It's fucking terrible with homeless people and drug addicts and all this stuff. So somebody was squatting in the storage unit next to his.
This is a different one. Didn't
No.
Oh, it's same one.
It was the storage unit. The storage unit next to him, someone was living outside, or they were living outside in a camper, and it started on fire, and it started the storage unit on fire, and his storage unit got on fire, but they got it out, but some stuff got melted and smoke damaged and whatever. And whether he moved it over a storage unit, it's irrelevant. They started it on fire. A bunch of his stuff that he told me I was buying was water damaged from the firefighters putting it out, smoke damage, all this stuff. So he didn't really remember, and I guess logistically with him stuff changing with all that going on, he didn't have the key or the combination. I don't know what it was, but we get in there and it's just like, holy crap. I already had loaded 30 transmissions, and there was 40 more transmissions in this one, and adapters. So at this point I knew there was way more than I could get in one day. The other problem is I was supposed to be up to the guy where the Big Red was that afternoon or evening, and he's kind of waiting around for me. And where he was in Seattle, I think it was 2-3 hours from where he lived.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh my God, I still need to get up to him and get loaded this evening. So at that point, I kind of made the decision. We're going to have to go back. I wasn't going to be able to get all of it in Big Red. I couldn't physically myself load everything. And then Rich had to leave Rick. It's not Rich.
Oh, Rick. That's right.
Rick had to leave to do something at that point later in the day. So he was kind of had to leave. So I just decided I'm going to pick, like we do with a lot of these estates. I'm just going to get the stuff that if I couldn't come back, it was going to be, devastating. So I got most of the stuff out of there, but there was still, when we went back.
I think we sent back 2 more pallets of stuff.
Yeah. So I got all the most of the adapters, the 50 olds bell housings, the, transmissions, but I had to leave behind some side shift olds transmissions. Some
old rears. I think we sent 3 of them back on the pallet.
And I took a bunch of olds rears. So it was kind of crazy. But basically by the end of it, Kate was like COVID hit her hard, and she was dying, miserable, coughing, fever, but I got to give it to her. She stuck it out. She just sat in the truck and just just was miserable, dying in the truck. And I was just it was an unfortunate situation. She knew that I needed to get the stuff loaded. I had a hotel booked an hour. I think it was halfway between Will and where the Big Red was. So as we were driving, so I didn't leave Will's till 7. It was getting close to dark.
Yeah.
So Kate was so sick, I decided I had to drop her at the hotel. I dropped her at the hotel, and she literally just went in the hotel and passed away for a while. And checked her in. She went in the hotel. I got back in the truck, drove another hour to the big red guy. And at that point, I don't think I got to him till 10 at night or 10:30.
I'll put the time lapse photo of them loading. It is dark the entire time.
The whole time. We didn't get done loading till 1 a.m. And luckily, he had a machine. He had lights. He's equally as crazy as I am. So he was like, okay, we just got to get it done. So we loaded and moved engines and slid everything between the trucks. And as we're loading, he's like, dude, I didn't realize you were going to have this much stuff. And I'm like, I kind of didn't either. So we loaded Big Red. Big Red's bed area is...
It's like 20 feet long, isn't it?
20 feet long. The bed sides are probably 3 feet tall.
No, it's probably
4 feet.
4 or 4.5, yeah.
4 feet tall. We loaded the back of it all the way to the top.
There was literally no space left.
There was no space. We kind of like put tarps across the top to like keep everything condensed, but it was packed. And I think I even had stuff in the front seat, on the front floor. We packed that thing full, and he was like, okay, cool. And I was like, all right, see ya. High five. And I left. And I left like a lot of money in parts in this truck with a handshake deal.
Did you bring the Rotaphase back with you?
I did. The only thing I brought back is I carried the Rotaphase with me.
Also, where did Will keep it in his house? Wasn't it under his bed?
I don't remember. He kept stuff in the closet, under his bed. There were some of the really good stuff he had like in the house.
I think I have a clip of the like kitchen table. Had like all the really good stuff laid out on the kitchen table.
Yeah, he had pulled it out ahead of time. And Will and his wife, great people. His wife was a riot. She was like what you would what a lot of us car people joke about. She's like, I told him when he went to the hospital, if he went back to the hospital again, I was going to open the garage door and put a sign out that said free and let people take whatever they wanted because I'm not dealing with this mess. And I was like, you definitely don't want to do that. And she's like, it's good you took all this stuff because anything you don't take, if he goes back to the hospital, I'm putting a sign for free. And she was just like, take it all. And like there was stuff that I didn't buy that she was like whispering to me when he was like in the house. She's like, just take it. I don't care. Just take it all. And Kate and her were talking back and forth. She was just a riot. She was a super cool lady. Just really, really funny. But she was dead ass serious. She would have given the stuff away. So she didn't even know what was at the storage unit. So
I'm sure.
He was, and this was one of these ones, he was paying rent on the stuff in the storage unit at like $100 a month or $125 a month for years. And so we got all that stuff loaded, and I went back to the hotel with Kate, and she was like dead asleep, still not feeling well. And I think she had COVID. But, like, by the time we left and headed north to visit her cousin, she was actually feeling better. So I don't know if she had COVID, like, before we even left and it didn't hit her as hard. Because by the time I never got COVID. And, like, we traveled together. I felt totally fine. And she got better by the time we went to visit her cousin. She was fine. And then the rest of the trip, she was basically okay. So I think she didn't get it as bad. It just hit her super hard for, like, 24 hours.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, it was funny because I left, handshake deal with the dude, like, yeah, just store all this really great stuff.
Let me know when you can load it on a transporter or if you can bring it east. I'll see you sometime.
So months went by till we worked it out.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of when that all came in.
It was months.
Yeah.
Because eventually what ended up happening is he was kind of like, well, I might, if I can put all my trip together, I probably could deliver it. He had a big like tilt bed trailer that was like, he was getting a custom trailer for hauling big trucks that was tilt bed that you could drive over the fenders, built by a place in Texas. And he was like, basically, when that trailer's done, I'm going to go get it. And then if I can line everything up, I'm going to go to Canada and I can deliver this. So it took months. It was like late in the summer, I think, till he brought the stuff back.
Yeah, it might have been August by the time it showed up.
So, fast forward to August, everything, we agreed. He gave me a price, and it was like, okay, fine. It is what it is. And then, like, literally, it was the day before or 2 days before he was going to head out. he basically is a crazy person. So he's like, whenever I do my trips, I don't sleep for days. So he will drive cross country to pick something up or get it, and he does not sleep for like literally like 3 days on end.
Yeah.
He's just ex-military Navy SEAL. I don't remember what it was, but it was something.
Had a really, really bad back injury, so sitting in a truck is painful, so he'd rather just do all of it at once and then get to where he's at, sleep a little bit, and then do the rest of it all at
Yeah.
once.
So he was kind of like, I'll let you know when I'm gonna leave, but when it all happens, I'm gonna like be to you in, exactly how long it takes without stopping, other than fuel. So he loaded it on the truck, and he's like, dude, this thing's pretty heavy. Like the truck's heavy, and we loaded a lot in it, but we loaded it all in the dark, so he didn't really kind of fully realize
Didn't
how much.
calculate all the weight.
Yeah, so he was like texting me, and he's like, well, I'm going to run down to the scale off the highway and just weigh this thing. And he weighs it, and he texts me like an hour later. He's, dude, I'm like 3,000 pounds overweight. Like, if I get busted, like, if I have to pull in, I'm like significantly overweight.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I'm like,
Good luck.
Yeah, and I was like, if you want to offload some stuff, I guess you can. I'm across the country. He's like, screw it. I'll drive through the night and avoid the scales. And he texted me, was like routing where the scales were, and he was taking routes to go around, like taking highways that there wasn't scales to go up and down and around and over, and driving through the night, driving on the weekend. And he somehow, long story short, he did it nonstop. He showed up at my house at 2 a.m. and insisted on unloading at 2 a.m.
Also, crazy enough, he loaded the truck backwards because of the weight.
Yes.
And drove. The trailer's insane. There's a clip of him unloading it. He drove it, backed it onto the trailer, up over the fenders.
Yes.
And then it sat that way. So that's a crazy amount of weight on that trailer.
Yeah, and the trailer was set for the weight. He told me that the weight the trailer was loaded for was fine because he hauls some big stuff. It was just
The combination of
everything. And he didn't have a semi. He had a big dually, like F550 or something. It was badass truck. Like, I love the truck. New, brand new pickup. And he was just like, my combined weight he was overweight.
Yeah.
And non-CDL, so.
We've all been there.
Yeah. So the way he loaded it was crazy. So then he gets here at like 2 a.m. and he, of course, doesn't want to stay overnight because he was then leaving my place after we offloaded. And he was trying to get to the Niagara Falls area to be ready to go to cross the border in the morning.
Yep.
So I'm like, okay. So I'm waiting up for him. At 2 a.m., he gets here. And I pull him on the street next to us because there's the foundry there, and the street's big for semis and stuff, so we could offload in the street. And the Big Red did run. But then we were like, well, how do we get this off the trailer? Because he has to drive it up over. And I'm like, well, the truck's so heavy, and with the tilt bed, if you lift it, we can get it up over and just use the brakes of the truck to slowly, go down. Pretty sketchy. And he had all these, blocks and stuff to get it up over because the back of the truck was hitting the ramps, and it was it took I feel like it took 2 hours to get it off the trailer. It felt like it. Maybe it was less. But we didn't get done till 4 a.m. Gave him a high five, and he went on his way. I started the truck up and drove it in creeper gear around the block, parked it, and then I went to bed, and it was full of stuff. And then
yeah, and it kind of ran well. We had all kinds of problems with it running. So we're like, how are we going to get all of this because at that point we sold the warehouse. Yes. It's how do we get it all to the warehouse? We're like, we'll just drive Big Red. And I was like, there's no way I'm driving Big Red.
It was so overweight. I don't know what the truck's rated for, but the weight that I had in the back was probably more than it's ever had. It was probably exceeded what it should have had when it was new.
Oh, 100%.
And the thing has old tires. I've never driven it other than around the guy's yard.
I don't know if you got it out of first gear around his yard.
No, I didn't. And I was just like, man, I don't need this thing breaking down, and a cop pulls behind us and we're overweight. So we unloaded it.
Did we unload all of it or just some of it? I don't remember now.
I think we unloaded all of it.
I know we unloaded a ton of it. I couldn't remember if we did all of it. But we took multiple trips to and from here in the warehouse, and all of it's such heavy stuff. I mean, there's nothing like handling stuff 3-4 times to get it upstairs at the
Yeah,
old building.
It was a lot of stuff, and again, it was heavy stuff and transmissions, and that stuff. We still, I mean, that was years ago. We still have some of that stuff.
I think there's one pallet left we haven't fully gone through. It's like rears and stuff that we got on the second trip.
Yeah, and it was transmissions. But yeah, so the second trip out, I kind of half remembered what was in the storage unit, but I didn't. And we were going out for another trip.
Again, a whole calendar year later, basically.
Yeah. And Will was super cool, wasn't in a hurry, didn't care, because I cleaned out his garage mainly. So we went back to visit Will. Will was fantastic because Will has and had all the documentation of like all the adapters, all the weird distributors, all the stuff. He was so nerdy about the stuff. So he was going online and buying, real copies and real versions and also copies of all the old paperwork. So he had like Rotophase and
he had a bunch of
flamethrower,
Hurst like shifter designs and stuff.
Yeah, he had that stuff. He had all these paperwork. So he was like emailing me and gave me in person all this paperwork, which was like, was great. So then we went back and a year passed by and Will, I knew we had a bunch. And then we get there and Will's like, well, I've been thinking about it. And some of the stuff that wasn't for sale the first time, now he's like, maybe I should sell it. So the big thing that I was super pumped on, Will had an Olds rear, the real good Olds rear, is it 9.3 or whatever it is, Olds rear that he had custom built. So he had custom, like, I forget the company, but he had custom axles.
Shit, yeah. Was it Moser?
Might be Moser axles. He had custom axles made, 9-inch axles made for it. He had it narrowed, so he took the Olds rear, had it narrowed because the later ones are quite wide. He had it narrowed for a 30s car, custom axles made. He had found an original Pontiac Posi rear. It was like a 1 year or 2 year only. It's a Buick Olds Pontiac rear is what it is. So Pontiac for like 1 or 2 years offered that rear in Posi. Mm-hmm. He has an original, I think, NOS center section. I still have it. Posi center section for it. And then he had that in a bag in his closet. Somewhere. And then he had the rear, was all redone, and he had an open center section with like a 420 something because he had there was a overdrive setup that he also was selling me. It was
I can't think of it now. Oh shit! It's all the ones that Drag and Drive guys use. I can't believe I can't think of it now.
Anyways, we'll think of it. He had an overdrive unit that he was putting behind a small walk with a TH350 or something. So with all the overdrives, that low rear wasn't a problem. So he had a low rear in it. For what we do, it's not as great. So eventually I'm going to have to get a better ring and pinion. But he has the Posi unit, and he showed me all that. And I was like, kind of after that when we first went there, because in our second video, our podcast we'll talk about, but I knew that I was getting a blown Olds.
Yeah.
So I knew that rear with a blown Olds is like and then Will had sold me all kinds of LaSalle's and stuff like that. So I'm like, the dream, Olds LaSalle 50s, 60s era, like, drag or, crazy street setup was that. So I bought that. Gear vendors overdrive. I bought that from him. That wasn't for sale the first time.
We had to take the rear out from under the chassis too.
Yeah, so like, I guess he was gonna sell the chassis. He was giving up on the Chevy project. So we literally pulled that out from underneath of it, which was
had to find all the tools to pull it out. Yeah, it was a process.
Kind of a pain in the butt. But we got that. We went to the storage unit.
And I think we found more stuff at the house too.
We did, yeah.
There was like cast iron bell housings at the house that you didn't take that we took this time. And
we got a bunch more there. Then we went to the storage unit again. Couldn't find the lock or whatever the problem was.
They were numbered weird, and he's trying to unlock the wrong storage unit.
Oh,
and it's like pretty far down the complex, so he walks all the way back up talks to the office,
refused to get a ride from us.
Yes.
So he's older, and he walked, and we're like, oh my god.
walks all the way back, and it just turned out we were literally just one unit off.
Yeah,
They were like
yeah.
numbered weird. He's like, oh yeah, that's my lock there. It's like, oh my god, this process.
Oh yeah, because they changed the lock. You could tell the lock
Yeah,
had been
that's right.
changed because whoever had it next to him hadn't paid their rent, so they had cut the lock
Yeah,
and put another lock on it or whatever.
that's
Like,
so
oh my
funny.
God.
He's
So
like, what's? I'm so confused. And he walks away. Matt's like, this happened last time.
yeah, I'm like, this is deja vu. So we went in there, and it was like more than I had remembered.
Yeah, so much stuff.
And I don't even remember. I mean, you might remember better, but the stuff we got. I know the 4-inch crank and like stroker flathead stuff I left behind.
There was two of them there. There was a 4-inch and then 4 1/8, I think.
Yeah, and we still
Crank
have all that.
and rods, yeah.
We still have all that.
Because the 4-inch was a brand new.
It was a reground original 4-inch, I think.
One of them was a brand new scat in the box, I think. One of them. It's up on your pallet of
Yeah,
engine
we got to go
parts.
through that. I could
Yeah.
use that in the future.
There's like a brand new. It's either the 4 or 4 1/8. One of them's brand new. The other one's an old one that was reground.
Yeah, and some of that stuff has to be resanded,
Yeah.
repolished because it has like even though they were covered and the boxes got damp from the fire, and even though they didn't get like hosed down, they were in a damp environment. So I remember some of the crank journals were like they weren't pitted, but they have surface
Yeah.
rust, so they probably need to be repolished. And I can't even remember what else we got. There was a bunch more. I can't believe the amount of Oldsmobile bell housings.
So many.
All these estates.
And Buick. We got a ton of Buick ones.
He had this, like, every one of us that's crazy about this stuff, myself included, I feel like I go through phases, but Will went through a phase of transmission adapters, bell housings, stick shift conversions for weird stuff. So he had, like, Tri-5, he had Cadillac, he had Olds stick shift conversions.
Yeah, pedal setups and floor shifters.
Yep.
So it's like you'd open a box and it's like Cadillac floor shift conversion. Then you open a couple boxes later and you're like, here's the pedals for that Cadillac. And then you go a couple more boxes. You're like, here's every adapter that they possibly made for this Cadillac.
Yeah.
To every kind of transmission.
So he had like every adapter ever. He just started buying every combination of adapter. And then, of course, there's duplicates. And then 50 olds. He bought every 50 olds bell housing he could find. 37 LaSalle and Cadillac transmission bell housings and
For a while there.
transmissions. And then there was parts.
Yeah.
He was then got into, I guess, a period where he was then just buying every time somebody on the ham and on eBay would list like a cluster gear or an idler gear or synchros. He was buying them. So it was funny because a lot of the stuff wasn't even open. It was in the box, taped up from when he bought it, and he never opened it. He just threw it on the pile. And we were laughing. We were going through the stuff because I would recognize the names. I'd be like, I know that guy.
Yeah.
Or that guy still sells on eBay. Or I know that guy's username off the hammer. I actually know that guy.
Yeah.
You know, like people that he bought stuff from. It was kind of funny. And like we started opening up. We're like, oh my God, there's NOS, cluster gears and
For
stuff
LaSalle.
for LaSalle, and it's like, holy crap. So we went through all that, but it was overwhelming because Will had it fairly well organized, but a lot of this stuff, the boxes got damp, the boxes were tattered and old. So by the time we moved the stuff 6 times, some of the stuff, the boxes got lost, and we were like, here's a cluster gear. Is it Buick? Is it LaSalle? Is it we don't really know, and like we kind of know. So a lot of it for the longest time, we just had pallets of transmission parts
So much.
all together, and we've slowly been identifying it and going back through it. Sometime Will was really great that I would send him text messages or whatever and be like, hey, this, what is this? And he's like, boom, that's 37 LaSalle. He just knew it all off the top of his head. He knew it all right off the top of his head.
Yes.
So
A lot of the adapters too, like some of them don't have part numbers.
and he
I'd send
knew.
Matt a photo. Matt would text Will, and he'd text me back and be like, "This is X, Y, and Z," which is wild.
And then he would be like, oh yeah, I bought that from so-and-so in Kansas on the ham in 2010 or 2008. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. But yeah, when we were going through all that stuff, it was just like, holy crap. But I got a lot of really good intakes. I got the 4.2 Krager that I have on the Sweetheart Roadster. I got from him. That's on there. I kept that. I got the Rotophase that's also for the Sweetheart Roadster saved. It's it's really neat when we get all this stuff, the thinking about all the stuff from these different people that is now on these cars and being used by us or friends. So like the rear under your 34
Oh, that's right. I forgot that came from there.
came from Will because Will had bought from a friend that was street rodding like a 46.8 Ford or a 39 Ford, I forget. He had bought all the stuff out from underneath it. So there was like a nicely painted, all redone 39 rear.
Yep.
And Mike changed the drums and put that under his 34. And I was just going to set it aside. And then fast forward to when Mike's doing his car, I was like, well, we got the perfect rear. Let's just slide it underneath. The flathead I got from there, he knew ran. And I think that's the one that is either in Pete's car or I think it's the one in Pete's car. Pretty sure it is. If not, it's the one that we sent to Andy in Virginia.
No, that one came from. That's not that one. I think it's the one in Pete's car.
So the one in Pete's car, I think you're right. That engine was the one I had run. It was a good engine, and that's now living in Pete's car, and that saved the day with that. So it's like funny how this stuff goes around. I think there was a 39 Trans that probably went in one of the cars. I can't remember anymore. So like a lot of that stuff got used, got saved.
There's a pile of adapters up here.
Yeah.
Or actually, they're in the other building now, but there's a pile of like 2 flathead De La Salle adapters. Like there's just a stack of adapters, and they basically flywheels too. He had a ton of flywheels and clutch assemblies.
I have a small block Chevy Rotaphase, which was one of the later Rotaphases that Kong Jackson did, but it's pretty neat. I have one of those.
Some flamethrowers from them too, right?
Yeah, a couple flamethrowers. So I saved a lot of really good stuff, but the great thing was he had so many duplicates that like I could save one for myself and then sell 2 more. And
There's no extra Rotaphases.
unfortunately,
Yeah, there were no duplicate Cadillacs. I figured I'd just mention that so no one sends us
no,
emails.
there was none. I would have kept them if there was.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a lot of extras. There's some stuff I sold that I wish it didn't, but
What was that? Anything you sold?
there was a bunch of stuff. Just like there was a Thixton intake, for flathead that I sold, but it was kind of like
The funniest one is the Cadillac adapter you just bought. Late Cadillac to early Ford. We had one from Will. I asked Matt. Matt's like, I'll never put one of those in it. I sell it, and fast forward 2 years, Matt goes, what happened to that adapter, the Cadillac to early Ford? Like, you told me to sell it. Like, fuck.
and then I paid more.
Yes, than what we sold it for.
More than what we sold it for retail. I had to pay someone to buy that item back. So now you understand why hoarders are. That makes me never want to sell a trans adapter ever again because it hurt to pay, not just like $10. I think I paid like $100 or $125 more than what we sold ours for. It's like, and we even hit up the dude that we sold ours to, and he's like, "Nah, it's so hard to find. I don't want to get rid of him." Like,
I know. I need it back.
I need it back. So, it is what it is. But that's part of running a business. We have to sell stuff, and you have to make those decisions. And at the time, any of these estates, I'm usually skimming the most valuable and the rarest items off the top. So we have to sell some stuff that's like almost as rare, just so that we break even or make money. So we ended up doing okay on that estate.
Yeah, we did pretty good.
That was probably at that point, that was the best one I had done as far as speed equipment in one shot goes. That probably still to this day is the best one as far as variety goes of speed equipment.
Yeah, a little bit of everything.
We did the Beasley estate, which we're going to talk about in another one, that was all Oldsmobile / cattle, pretty much all Oldsmobile speed equipment. And that was, one make of speed equipment. We did the flathead one in Minnesota, which was all flathead, and that was the biggest flathead one we did. But like, it was everything. It was small block Chevy.
Basically all GM overhead valve. And because there was some Pontiac stuff mixed in too.
You're right.
And there was flathead. I don't know if he had any Hemi stuff.
No, there was I think there was zero Hemi. It was all GM, early overhead valve GM engines.
And flathead.
And then a little bit of flathead. Not a ton, but a little bit of flathead stuff. And that was it. But it was like, it ran the gamut of all the, popular early GM engines. And it was just really neat because there was a lot of stuff that I, always wanted but didn't have a chance to buy. So we bought all this stuff, and I'm able to just pick some stuff off the pile.
Because I remember before you buying all this, you were on the hunt for a cat or a flathead to LaSalle adapter for the longest time, and I think you bought one at one of the swap meets.
I bought one that was a homemade one at Moultrie in 2020.
That's right.
And it's kind of crappily done. But I bought it because I wanted to start mocking up the art in the 33. And I put it on. I wasn't real happy with it, but it allowed me to start making some motor mounts and stuff. And then we got that one, and I'm like, dang it. That's
I think
the
there
one.
might have been 3 in Will's stuff or
Two or three, yeah. And I kept, I think, both of them.
Yeah. Oh, there was 3. We sold one and you kept 2.
Yeah, and I probably should have kept all 3.
3 of them. Yeah, they're just as hard to find now.
Yeah, I know. And but yeah, I think I put that one is now on the 33 with the Arden and the LaSalle
I believe that one was NOS, if I remember correctly.
probably. And then I think one of the LaSalles that I got from Will that was really nice, I think is in the 32.3 window with the Lincoln engine.
Oh, yeah.
I put that behind that. And I kept basically all of them. I didn't really sell any of the LaSalles or any of the extra parts. People hit us up occasionally asking for parts. Once in a while, we've sold a piece here and there. But because a lot of Will stuff was blown apart, like we have spare cases, we have side shifts, we have all this stuff. It's like I hate to sell a lot of the parts because when we get to the point of putting them together, I don't want to be missing. We don't have a good inventory. So we've kept most of that stuff. We haven't really tackled it yet. I'd like to get to the point where we can machine the, so to go on a side tangent of nerdiness, side shift LaSalle gear sets. The main shaft that runs through is a different diameter, very small nominal amount, but it is a different diameter. So if you want to use those gears, which are much more common, in a 37 floor shift 1 year only case, you have to bore out the line bore the case to fit all that stuff.
I think it's only like a 16th.
It's very, very small. Like I think I think it's 1 inch is the diameter on the side shift, and the other one's like 15 sixteenths or something like that. So you have to, but again, you need to line bore it to do that. So that's the whole thing. I want to make a fixture or make a boring tool, or I want to do it myself or get to the point where I can. Pretty sure I can do it myself. I've been getting a lot better on machining, but time is the problem. To dedicate, a week to figuring out all the LaSalle stuff for a couple of days, I haven't had time or the need. So we've held on to a lot of that. But Will was so educated on this stuff. He was buying all these pieces and parts and throw up there. The candlesticks.
Oh my gosh.
They're like the hardest thing to find for LaSalle's, Buick, and Olds and all that stuff. And we had dozens of the candlesticks. He was buying every one he could find. We joked that like the reason they're so rare,
Will had all of them.
Will bought all of them.
So the candlestick is what the throw-out bearing slides on for a GM overhead valve.
Yeah, it's like a separate part versus...
It's like a bearing retainer and a throw-out bearing slide because it holds the bearing in the front of the trans.
But it just like slides off the bell housing, sandwiches it onto the transmission. Yeah. And unlike like a flathead Ford or something where it's
bolted to the trans.
It's bolted to trans and holds the bearing on. This doesn't do that. So they get lost almost every time somebody separates them. They fall out of the bell housing. People don't realize it when they're sitting in a guy's garage.
A lot of times they're stuck in the bell housing because they get pushed in, and they're kind of, when they're in the bell housing, they're kind of hard to remove because it's just like stamped tin almost.
Yeah, and it has like they're not super easy to make on a lathe or a mill yourself. It's doable, but it has like a little like drain in it for the gear oil actually lubricates the bearing.
Yep.
And it has like a drain on it that's built into the bell housing and in this retainer. So it's not a super simple part to make.
Yeah.
So they're quite rare. And people are always, that's probably the most common thing we get requests for: Buick, Olds,
yes,
LaSalle CAD LaSalle transmissions, is those candlesticks. And I don't really sell them because they're hard to find. And Will was smart enough to gather every one.
We have quite a few.
So that's that was good. But yeah, so that stuff was really cool. It was really neat with Will that I could he follows our channel and follows us. So like even I haven't talked to him in a little while, but the couple of times I've checked in with him, he's like, "Oh yeah, I saw you use
Yeah.
that part for me on this or that," and it's just it's that was one of the rare ones where it's satisfying that we sold him the stuff and he got to see some of his stuff getting used on our cars, friends' cars.
And I think the second time we went out there, we had just put the rear under my car.
Oh yeah,
So we were out talking, and I was like, "Yeah, I took that rear that you had, and we shortened the torque tube and put it right under my car." He's like, "Oh, that's so cool."
yeah. So that's pretty cool, and that's we say that with our business as a whole. That is the goal with all of this is
Yeah.
when we buy these collections. Yes, we're running a business. We're trying to make money and put food on the table and keep the lights on. But like, it's satisfying to get these collections and get this stuff instead of it, being hoarded. And that's not a negative term always, but like collected,
Hidden away.
yeah, hidden away, and get it distributed. And this stuff's out there. It's on all these different cars. I know there was one of the LaSalle's or something that I sold went on like a nostalgic drag car that a guy it was restoring and stuff like that. Like so that stuff's getting used by us and other people.
Yep.
So that's really satisfying. Will's stuff was really fun because the stuff was almost everybody was selling this like obscure speed equipment too was like building something pretty kick-ass.
Yeah.
So it was really fun, and now it's almost all distributed.
Just about. We have like one pallet left I need
Yeah.
to go through. That's a lot of the weird transmission stuff. There's 3 Olds rears on there because we still need to figure out what Matt needs for his. So we don't
Yeah.
we don't want to sell anything and be like, "Oh, that ring and pinion was exactly what I needed."
Yeah, try and find a gear ratio that's as favorable as
Yeah.
possible, which is kind of hard because those cars didn't really get like highway gears.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I even have one. There might be one that's like a 370
I think
something
there's a 370 or 350 on one of this
pallets. So we have
Yeah,
to swap
third
parts
members up
around.
there.
Yeah. So, but anyways, it was really really fun, and yeah, hopefully we get to do more of those. But that one was
Yeah.
really neat. That was the most I've ever done by myself.
I felt terrible. I couldn't go, and it was just like Matt sends me a photo of the box truck loaded at like 2 a.m, which is like 5 our time. I wake up the next morning at like 7 with my kids, and I'm like, "Oh man, he's getting his
Yeah.
ass handed to him."
Yeah, it was terrible. That was probably that's probably in the top 3 of the most tired I've ever been, exhausted from physically working in my life because it was just nonstop. It was literally, I can't remember now, but I think that we flew in.
Yeah, it was the same day you flew in. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
so that morning I was, we were up at like whatever ungodly hour to get on a flight in probably Philly
Yep.
and fly to Seattle, get a box truck, load all day, and then I was unloading at 2 a.m, and then I finally got back to go to sleep. But in the end, out of that trip, probably the highlights were Kate got to see a cousin of hers she hadn't seen in a very long time. I think it was in Bellingham,
Yeah.
which was really cool. We got to wander the town. So Kate and I got to spend a bunch of good time, and we drove and visited Matt at Seattle Speed Shop.
And was that the first time you met Matt?
That was the first time we met Matt in person. Super cool that we got to see him. We got to drive some really fun roads. And then Kate and I flew to Colorado, and we spent a couple days in
Denver.
which was really, really cool. We got to, her friend that she went to college with. I had never been to Denver. We did a bunch of sightseeing. Went to Red Rocks, all that stuff. It was super, super cool. So overall, it was like I always say, for 1 or 2 days, we worked super hard, and then the rest of the trip was just hanging out and
Yeah.
a lot of fun, and it made it really, really good. And
it tagged on to your next big purchase, which was
Yeah.
the stuff in Denver.
yeah, this is, as you could see, with the business was starting to spiral with like the leads coming in.
That
and-
trip's crazy because that was one of the first trips that we did that was like, we stopped at 3 different places on that trip
Oh yeah,
and bought like crazy amounts of stuff at each spot. And that was one of the first ones you and I did together where I was like, we're going to stop here, and then we're going to stop here, and then to the end of the trip, we're going to stop here. And there's a swap meet we're going to stop at on the way
oh
home.
yeah. So in our next, not our next podcast, but the one after that,
Yeah.
we'll review that crazy trip. But
That trip we got boned hard by an airline, so we'll dive into all that craziness.
Yeah. So, but this one was fun. So hopefully you guys enjoy
Yeah.
listening to this stuff. It's really good. And as we always say, if you guys missed that video or you want to rewatch it, Mike always puts that link down in the bottom. You can watch that video about the both of those trips.
Yeah, I'll put both trips in the. I think we did 2 unloading videos for that, so I'll put all them down below.
Yeah, so if it's fun for you guys to kind of listen to the podcast and then review and watch those videos, that's what we kind of usually do is we rewatch the videos. We're like, holy crap, forgot about that. Or
As
that.
I'm editing this, I always send him photos like of my screen, like, do you remember this? And like, remember this funny part and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
I'm like, I don't even.
Yeah,
So that's why it's good we do these videos because it's also great. It's like
it's a refresher.
yeah, it's like a photo album or a video album for
Yeah.
us to also reflect back on, which is really fun. So thank you guys for following along, and again, make sure you check in with us on Sundays.
Yep.
We're doing these podcasts every week now, and it's been really
Yeah, and
fun.
reminder, watch next Sunday's video. We have a really cool announcement that we're pretty excited for.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. All right, guys, thanks. Catch you later.